Good evening. Welcome to SIDHI's fifth, I think, fifth session on how to on helping us improve research. And today we have um, Miss Marie Isabel Viola. I think she's an RA in the National Institute of Molecular Biology and Biotechnology in the University in UP Diliman. So she's here today to talk to us about how to stay organized while doing research. So, hi, Ate Isabel. You have the
Hello.
floor.
Hello. It's okay. Hello. Thank you. So, this is just a short talk and I hope, hopefully may onting tips na kayo mapulot while on how to stay organized while doing research. So, yeah. So at the very core of all research are these basic steps which we all know, the scientific method. So first, we need to observe our surroundings to find something to study or investigate. Then you would need to have a problem to solve. And then based on the facts that you have gathered, you can then start working on a hypothesis that you could test through several experiments. And then results from these experiments will leave you with answers that, when combined together, could lead to a conclusion. So, based on this diagram, actually, the scientific method seems fairly straightforward. But in reality, each step has its own difficulties and challenges that, when you're not careful, you can get lost somewhere along the way. So, Sidhi has actually broken down the main points for doing research, and I'm thankful to all our mentors for making each step understandable. And what I hope to achieve today is to share some tips on how to stay on track with all the information you have and will have. Can you all hear me? Nalate yung tanong. Yes naman. Okay, so moving on. Actually, this is a very special topic because it's no secret that research can be daunting. Sadly, in a global survey of graduate students, around one-third of the respondents reported seeking help for anxiety and depression. So they have listed several factors affecting this, but some include harassment and discrimination, bullying, and heightened insecurity about futures, which usually involves the uncertainty of a job later on. However, majority have also reported that they are unsatisfied with their work-life balance and other problems such as funding, lack of support, and etc. So these are the hardships currently experienced by researchers everywhere. So a major contributor of depression, though, is something called burnout. I myself have experienced this before, and it's not a very nice experience. So, as defined by the WHO, burnout is a syndrome stemming from unmanaged and unresolved chronic workplace stress. It can be characterized by three dimensions: feeling of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, which eventually result to reduced professional efficacy. So, it may also manifest through headaches and muscle tension, sleep pattern troubles, irritability, being overwhelmed, and emptiness. So, kapag super na-stress ka na sa ginagawa mo, patong-patong na sila, and you're unable to manage the stress, eventually you will have burnout. Um, Ayun. So, usual culprits of burnout are feeling either permanently overworked or under-challenged, being under time pressure, or having conflicts with colleagues. In research, extremely competitive environments may lead to researchers prioritizing their work, more often neglecting their own needs and their other relationships, which is actually one of the main reasons for unhealthy work-life balance. So, aside from actual experiments, ay, so contrary to popular belief, researchers actually spend less than 50% of their time doing research. So, in a study conducted by Nature before, they found out that the average researcher spends at around 42% of their time on research and around 58% of their time doing non-research things. Because aside from the actual experiments and lab work, it is also part of a scientist's job to publish, teach, seek research funding, and participate in meetings around the world. So this often leaves little to no room stopping and recharging, and sadly even leading to missing some family milestones. In the Philippines, it's not a secret the scientists are scarce and overburdened, but developing a few skills would indeed be handy in order to thrive and survive. In my case, I am currently a PhD student working as an RA while also serving as our laboratory services coordinator. So there are times when there would be literally too many things happening at once and everything seems to be overwhelming that I would just feel drained just thinking about it. So imagine in your case or in this as a student, um, super daming kailangan gawin like may exams, projects, tapos may research ka pa, tapos sabay-sabay silang lahat. And then parang gusto mo na lang mag-blackout or mag-disappear. I think we call this Hell Week. So that's why it's important to be organized and have a system to go back to whenever this happens. So one of the core traits of a researcher is being organized. A quick search in Google shows that organized means arranged in a systematic way or having one's affairs in order. So if you're familiar with Brooklyn Nine-Nine on Netflix, someone like Amy Santiago would be perfect for the job. But again, contrary to popular belief, being organized is not something you are born with. Actually, being organized is actually a skill that can be learned and must be practiced over time. It takes conscious effort and constant revisiting. There is no right or wrong way as long as it works. And then when you find something that works for you, you have to stick with that and continuously improve. So the road to being organized will not be easy, but the reward of getting things done consciously while preserving time for other things, like maintaining relationships or keeping yourself sane, will definitely be worth it. So in my this lecture, in this short talk, I would like to discuss one hallmark of being organized, which is time management. So I found a nice article from Harvard Business Review, which will be the basis of this lecture. So Harvard Business Review defines time management as the decision-making process that structures, protects, and adjusts a person's time to changing environmental conditions. So in their article, they highlight three skills crucial to maintaining to having successful time management. First is awareness, which is thinking realistically about your time by understanding that it is a limited resource. Next would be the arrangement. So this involves designing and organizing your goals, plans, schedules, and tasks to effectively use the time. And then last would be adaptation, wherein you monitor the use of your time while performing activities, including adjusting to interruptions or changing priorities. So in the study that they conducted, they found out that all three are equally important, but a lot of us or a lot of the people are only familiar with the arrangement part. We are probably also familiar with this, like yung pag-schedule ng to-do lists natin, what to do. Yun, basically that's the arrangement part. So aside from that, the study also found that awareness and adaptation are rarer skills and they're more difficult to develop naturally without direct interventions. So you would think na kapag additionally, multitasking has nothing to do with how successful the time management of the person is. So ibig sabihin, hindi ibig sabihin marami kang ginagawa at the same time, productive ka na. Walang correlation yon. And then lastly, they found out that when people assess themselves, it's not really accurate. So, yun, minsan dinadaya nila yung sarili nila. So, what are the repercussions of this study? Um, this leads to experiencing disappointment when no matter how hard you try to plan for your day, it seems like you don't get anything substantial done. Like, sobrang dami nga sa to-do list mo, kahit ma-tick off mo sila, parang wala pa ring substantial na nagawa. And then, minsan kapag um, gusto mo magpahinga, pero nagigilty ka kasi sobrang dami pang kailangan gawin. And then, it's important to note that busy is not equal to productive. So you may be busy, but it doesn't necessarily translate to getting things done. So one by one, we will tackle how to develop each skill. So for developing awareness skills, it is important to note that effectiveness is different from efficiency. So effectiveness can be defined by doing things well, while efficiency is defined by doing things fast. So both are critical. Pursuing efficiency for its own sake is counterproductive. So shortcuts are almost always counterproductive. So doing something right the first time would be better than rushing something and having to do it all over again. So how do we develop awareness skills? First, you have to find your peak performance time. So it's different for each person. How do you do this? Break your typical day into 3 to 4 time slots, and then over the course of a week, rank order these slots from your most to least productive. So yung most productive time slot mo ay mako-consider mo as your peak performance. Yeah, this is especially important when dividing time between writing and doing lab work, or in other case, academics. In my case, I realized that the best way for me to get into writing is first thing in the morning with nothing else in my schedule. I tried to write and do experiments at the same time and realized that I cannot focus and something almost always goes wrong sa experiments ko. So I can't multitask and I have to focus. Next to realize that time is like money. So create a time budget that details how you spend your hours during a typical week. So this is important because just like money, time is something you'll never get back. It's something that we don't often think about, but time is like our currency in life. So we pay the same amount of time, for example, to watch an episode in Netflix, or the same amount of time scrolling on our phones when we could have also spent the same amount of time doing productive work, or spending time or meeting and talking with our loved ones, etc. So, yun. And then what we could also do is to try timing up or to record how long you've spent on tasks with very clear deadlines rather than how much time you have left. So, minsan, baliktad tayo gumawa or mag-schedule. Dapat ina-estimate na natin yung time that it will take for something to be finished rather than yung time left to finish the task. Which leads to the next tip which is how, to evaluate how realistically you assess time. So after finishing a project, evaluate how long you thought it would take and how long it actually took. And then lastly, avoid sunk cost fallacy. When you think you might be spending too much on an activity, step back and evaluate its importance. So I think majority are guilty of this. So yung nanghihinayang na i-stop yung ginagawa mo kasi nasimulan mo na. So that's the sunk cost fallacy. The time spent cannot be returned anymore. However, the time that will be used up continuing something that is not worth it will be effectively time wasted. Yeah. So next skill to be developed are arrangement skills. So for this, the main concept is that urgent is different from important. So something can be classified as urgent if it requires immediate action, while something can be classified as important if it has significant and long-term consequences. So some tips to follow this are to use a calendar app. Um, so record due dates for tasks and appointments and do this immediately when they are planned or requested. It's also helpful to label or color code entries depending on the aspect in your life, like work related, life related, or school related. Next is to schedule protected time. Make calendar appointments with yourself to ensure uninterrupted time to dedicate to your most important projects. For example, if you're working on a manuscript or if you're working on a proposal, you can dedicate 1 hour every day to doing or to adding information to that proposal or manuscript. So that's really helpful, especially kapag sobrang dami mo nang kailangan gawin. At least you have 1 hour per day na um, that can add up to your goal. And then next would be to reduce underestimation errors. When forming plans, ask a neutral party for feedback about your forecasted time requirements. And then lastly, try half-sized goals. So when struggling to attain a goal that seems to be too challenging, set a less difficult version of the goal. That way you can actually do it. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this already. So this is the time management matrix wherein you group wherein you classify your things to do, whether if they are important or urgent, not important. So in the first quadrant, you can see yun yung mga dapat na mga kailangan mong gawing una. These include crises, pressing problems, deadline-driven projects, meetings, and preparations. So these are things that cannot be moved or rescheduled and have to be done as soon as possible. Next would be things that are important but not urgent. So these are things that you can schedule, such as preparations, presentations, planning, relationship building, etc. So these are things that you can plan for. And then there are those things such as interruptions and distractions, phone calls, emails that are urgent but not important. So you can schedule them during your idle time so that no time will be wasted. And then lastly, I think ito yung mga favorite natin. Well, me at least. Major enemies natin ang mga time wasters, which include yung mga escape activities like binge watching, trivia, busy work, and on. So they are not urgent and not at all important. So they must be avoided. And then lastly, developing adaptation skills. So these skills are tested and developed in situations that naturally involve high pressure and sometimes even crisis. So the challenge is to handle such situations without getting upset, anxious, or distracted. So plans don't always work out. We must learn to adapt and improvise without getting sidetracked. So how to do this? One tip would be to try habit stacking. So this involves tying your time management behaviors to habits you already exhibit. For example, track daily progress every evening when you sit down for dinner, or every morning when you wake up, you can start planning for the day already, something like that. And then next would be use short bursts of effort. So when tasks seem overwhelming, put forth maximum effort for 15 to 30-minute intervals to help avoid procrastination. So there will be times na you feel like sinisipag ka, so maximize those times. And then you can try experimenting with time tracker or checklist apps. Remember that benefit must exceed cost when using these tools. So gains should outweigh the time spent using the app. So you can there are lots of apps available for free. I will show a few of them later. And then you can experiment with what works for you. And then Also be specific when setting reminders. Eventually, when everything is happening simultaneously, I mean, it's reminders are very helpful, especially when they're specific. But if they're not specific, they would be like riddles you have to solve. So you have to be very specific. Next would be to create contingency plans. Think about the best case or worst case scenarios when you outline possible outcomes of your plans. And lastly, to avoid distractions and reduce time wasters. So there are also, these include social media sites during critical work time. And so, to give you an idea of the available apps out there, if you're not using one already, um, you can try downloading Mind the Time. It's an extension in Firefox. And for Chrome, you can try Be Limitless. So these are free. And these are what I use. But you can also try other things. And then you can also try doing the Pomodoro technique. So the Pomodoro technique uses a timer to break down work into 25-minute intervals followed by short breaks. So there are also apps that guide the user and time the user. So this can be revised according to your requirements. And then lastly, to avoid distractions, um, I use Forest. Yeah, Forest, stay focused, be present. This is actually a lifesaver for me during my thesis days. Yeah. So whenever you want to focus on your work, you can plant a tree, and then so you just click it, and then you can set a timer, for example, for 30 minutes, and then it will block the sites, the distractions, the distracting sites. And then after that, if you successfully avoided the sites, you will be able to grow a tree. But if you access the site during the time that it's planting, it will ask you like, if do you want to kill your tree? So it's kind of guilt tripping. It works for me. So you can find other apps that can work for you. So I found other options such as Leech Block. So this is also free, and then Stay Focused for Chrome. So yeah. So these are all things easier said than done, and I think they can be a handful, especially when it's the first time you're encountering it. So just try one hack at a time. So just to give you an idea on how I practice it, first I make a list of all the things I need to do in a week in outline form. For example, this is what happens to, this is my schedule for the week, an example of my schedule for the week. So after that, I would list the major goals first, then break it down into smaller tasks. So, for example, for writing a project proposal, I would break it down to I first need to read the journal articles, compile information, then proofread. And then when I perform an experiment, I have to prepare the reagents, then do the experiment proper, and then do the analysis and the report. And then, for example, for this lecture, I have to prepare the slides and then the actual presentation just now. So, if you noticed, I included as major goals the family dinners and watching Netflix. So that this is actually a hack or something I do so that I won't feel guilty doing it, because I would always think na this is scheduled, so it's okay. Next would be assess how long each task or goal will take, and then make sure to add enough buffers. So most probably, these are things that you've already done. Well, I've done these things, and I have a baseline on how long it takes me to do these things. So if it's the first time you will do a task, it's best to allot more time than usual, because learning new tasks can have a steep learning curve, and it will really take more time. So if you see this, I color coded them because later I will input them in a schedule or in a calendar. Then make sure to dedicate days to the urgent and important tasks, and then map out your week already to the unmovable slot. So these are the urgent and the important based on their deadlines. So for example, from the list on the left I will map them out to this calendar on the right. So if you notice, I avoided putting the time because, well, from my experience, putting the time just makes me feel more pressured to finish it. So at least given the, if I do it in the, if I just indicate in the morning or in the afternoon, I would have something concrete done at least anytime as long as it's in the morning. The same goes for the evening. And so that's it. That's my presentation for today. Oh, sorry, isa pa pala. And then aside from a weekly schedule, I have a plan for the day, either the night before or first thing in the morning. So when doing something, avoid half work, invest in deep focused work so you don't have to do it again. I don't always do this daily schedule, but if there are a lot of items in the weekly plan, that's when I try to do the hourly schedule. And now I'm done. So staying organized is a skill that can be developed over time. So keep on keeping on. And thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you, Ate Isai, for sharing that very insightful presentation. I know that hindi lang yung ating mentors, hindi lang yung mentees, pati rin yung mentors would be very, um, maraming tutulong niya sa ating lahat. So yeah, I'm opening uh, the field to questions. So anyone? You guys can put it in the chat then, I think. I'm not sure if there is a chat. Yeah.
I would like to ask, how would you overcome burnout? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I think when you recognize that you're starting to burn out, you just have to really pamper yourself. Well, at least for in my case, yun yung ginawa ko. Parang when I noticed na I'm feeling down, I'm feeling lethargic or too lazy, it doesn't help to put more pressure on you, no, na, or guilt yourself into why are you not doing these things. It's more like accepting na, okay, this is just a phase. It's my downtime. And then I give it a sort of an expiration date or a deadline. For example, okay, I'll be sad or I'll be lazy until tomorrow. So from the time that I declared it to the deadline, I would really maximize the time to pamper myself and do anything I want. But when the deadline comes, it's time to like push yourself. Does that make sense? Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I wish I learned that sooner. So, thank you. That was really good advice.
Okay. Yeah, I really think everything just needs to be set or have a time duration. Also important not to be too hard on yourself. Kasi ano rin, self-love ba?
Right. Sobrang totoo niyan. So anyone else have a question?
Yeah.
Alright, so sige. Ako may question ako. I think super interesting yung part about adaptation because I know it's something that I have struggled with every now and then. So, paano ko na-reach yung level of adaptation that you have right now? Like, meron ka bang ginawang um, uh, tricks or something like that? Na?
Mm, hmm. I think part of yung process ko of adaptation yung pag-input ko lang ng morning or afternoon, yung AM or PM lang. And then it's a trial and error process kasi. Before I tried to list everything that I need to do in one day. And then hindi ko sila nagagawa and then nalulungkot lang ako. So I tried to
Oh,
reduce the number of things that I have to do per day. And then at least pag nagawa ko
oh,
sila, I
okay.
can say na I did something.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
it's really
So,
just something
follow.
you do and practice over time. Okay, go lang.
Right. Yeah, because I know sobrang hirap ng bureaucracy sa Pilipinas and all that. It can be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello po, may question lang po ako. Ah, Rinig po ba
Hello?
ako?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Sige po.
Yes,
If
yes.
meron po kayong partner or friend, ka-group po na hindi natulong sa activity po or kahit group work or research po, kasi po yung dahilan niya ay nahihirapan siya sa time management. Kasi daw po, iba-iba daw po tayo mag-manage ng time. Ano po kaya yung puwedeng i-approach or parang sabihin sa kanya, okey lang po ba yun, valid reason po ba siya, gano'n po?
Mm, I think since group work siya, hindi siya valid na hindi siya gagawa because of any excuse. Like, dapat mag-contribute lahat ng tao kasi group work siya. Pero, I think what you can do is ask him ano bang gusto niyang way of doing or scheduling things. And then, from kung ano man isagot, pag sinabi niyang bahala na siya, or like, wala siyang system exactly, you can agree on something or on a system kung na pwede niyong gamitin. For example, at least a day before, kunyari alam niyo may task kayo na gagawin. So like, sabihan mo na siya a day before na, okay, at this time, ito yung gagawin natin. So kapag nag-agree siya doon, dapat mag-show up siya. And he can't use the excuse na iba-iba yung time management, ganyan. Kasi naka-schedule na siya ahead of time.
Okey po, thank you po.
I hope mag-work yun. Pero I think kailangan mo siyang kausapin talaga. Kung hindi siya gagalaw, ikaw na yung mag-declare or mag-decide for him and mag-set ng time for the task.
Sige po, thank you
And then
po.
kung hindi siya nag-show up, that's the time na huwag mo na siya isama. I hope helpful yung talk. Well, go lang. Feel free to ask me anything.
Guys, ask nyo lang siya if super bait niya sa MBB when I was there.
Thanks. In any case naman, feel free to message me about scheduling or if you need advice in research or something. Hindi ko na pala sinama yung
Yeah.
being organized while doing the experiments. Kasi I'm assuming isasama yan sa other lecture. So, attend the other lectures.
I think, yeah, kasi it's also a whole other beast then.
Yeah. Pero if there's one advice talaga I can leave you, well, being, if you want to be organized in doing research, the actual lab work, write down everything. And write down everything. Yun
Yeah.
lang.
Parang lab notebook, no? For everyone. Yeah.
Mm-mm. Kahit random thoughts mo lang about the experiment,
Actually,
sulat mo siya kasi makakalimutan.
yeah. So lang sa I think yung ibang mga boss, parang they would actually not, sabi ng isang boss dito sa isa kong friend, no lab notebook, no pay.
Yeah, super important ng lab notebook.
Yeah. So guys, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, so back to the previous answer, like because you said you're going to take some time for yourself in order to like rest, I guess. So do you think it would
Mm-hmm.
be good to inform your, like not really group mates, but like people you had plans with that you're going through something like that? Or like would that be wasting their time? Or they get what I mean?
I get what you mean. I think it's good to inform the other people,
Yes, but like you're
especially if
informing them
they're
of
involved
something,
with the.
but and then you're just going to inform them na that you're not. It's just like parang bad news lang siya. So
Na you're not doing so well, ganun.
know
I
that you're
think
going to.
it's there to rest. Hello, going to.
No, it's like the um.
Hello.
It's like you're slacking off.
Sorry, can you repeat the
In,
question?
yeah, do you think it would be beneficial to inform people you made previous commitments with, if you're planning to take some time off? Because it's like if you're messaging them or informing them, it's like, ano lang, would that be counterproductive? Would you advise that? I'm sorry, it's like
I
super
think
long-winded question.
no, it's okay. It's okay. That's actually happened in our lab already. I think it's better to inform the other people that you're gonna have some time off and you're not doing so well, so that they can adjust their themselves accordingly, instead of wondering where you are, and instead of counting on you to do something that you won't be able to do well. Parang it's fair. It's informing them would be fair to you and would be fair to them. But not informing them would be depriving them of the chance to make up for what will be deficient. What will magiging unfair sa kanila kung ano yung hindi nila ma-estimate kung ano yung kailangan nilang dagdag na effort. I guess ba? Sorry, ang gulo. Pero parang, okay, let me rephrase. Yes, it would, I recommend, na sabihan mo sila, talk about it with them. Kasi they deserve to know. Kasi they're involved in the project and they will be affected.
Yeah, thank you. That was
Okay.
okay.
Sorry, ang
Thank
gulo
you.
ng sagot ko. Pero yun yan. Ayun. Kasi kahit bad
Yeah.
news siya,
And
at it's something na they can adjust to. And I'm sure they will understand
yeah,
if you tell them nicely.
that's very important. Yeah. Parang I guess it's a part of communicating then what you can do at this point.
Mm.
Yeah, and I think yeah, it's yun basic respect din kahit papaano. Yeah.
Mm.
So guys, any more questions? Okay, so yeah. So if there are no more questions, let's all thank Ate Isay for sharing
Thank you.
this talk with us, her wisdom, experience
Thank you po,
sa
Ate Isay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Feel free to message me lang. Good luck in research. Thank you. Bye-bye.
bye. Thanks everyone.
Bye po.